It started out as a movie about a fighter with almost no chance of success.
So we know what it's like to be an underdog, because everyone's an underdog.
It was really the longest of all long shots.
Forget it. The chances of you making it are like zero.
A low-budget boxing movie with a no-name star.
You had Nick Nolte, you had this guy, that guy. And Sylvester Stallone, go, who?
And he wrote the script himself, longhand, about a boxer who didn't even dream about becoming a champ.
If I can just go the distance, if I can be a great number 2, even a good number 3, I know I'm good enough.
But Rocky went the distance and became a hero. And much more than that, he became an icon. Rocky was a symbol of heart and hope. This second-rate fighter who inspired millions of people all over the world.
This is for all the Rockies in the world out there. And it was, because that's who came. Everyone had a little piece of that part of them that was taken by the journey. To be taken by the journey, you have to relate to it. If you relate to it, then you have a little Rocky in you.
No one expected this low-budget movie to become a hit.
I was more surprised that it translated into anything more than just a momentary weekend movie. I never thought it would be around. It was about as frugal a production as you could get. Now, the fact that the movie was successful is, to this day, still baffles me.
And no one expected it to win multiple Oscars and then spawn an entire movie franchise. And as Rocky became a series, both the star and boxer took on tough odds and tougher foes. From the sequel
Apollo, who'd you expect?
I was hoping it wouldn't show.
to the opponents of Rocky 3, 4, and 5.
Come on, get your hands up, man. You need an interpreter? It's time to go to school.
You're gonna lose.
The Rocky saga became one of the most successful franchises in movie history, finally coming full circle.
I wanted to finish off the Rocky saga the way we did in number 6. So Rocky Balboa was the culmination of a lot of years of trying to get that mounted. It was a very, very, very laborious, torturous road because, you know, nobody wants to see a 60-year-old guy in the boxing ring anymore. So it was kind of like a hole in my heart. And I just wanted to finish it the way the character started, on a grand, noble note. And that was accomplished, so it was put to bed. And it really was very satisfying.
But as we find out, the world hadn't seen the last of Rocky.
He just lives a very, very stable, quiet, uneventful life until this young man appears at his restaurant, Adrian's restaurant, and his world is flipped upside down. How'd you hear about that?
I went down and I met with Sly in his office, and I kind of pitched him the idea. I pitched him the story, and I could tell he was really cautious.
I said, man, this guy, he must be in the wrong office. He definitely took a right turn. He should have gone left. I said, this is a crazy idea. Remember, I put Rocky to bed. He was sleeping soundly. After 40 years, went, great, mission accomplished. And now he's digging up a new idea, a concept I never even considered, which is Creed. A whole other dynamic, a whole other demographic, a whole other generation.
This is the story of a legacy of perseverance, of dogged determination, of heart. My name is Michael B. Jordan, and I play Adonis Creed.
The challenger, Adonis Hollywood Creed.
This is the land of opportunity, right? So Apollo Creed on January 1st gives a local underdog fighter an opportunity.
Rocky is the classic underdog story about a man who won't give up, no matter what the odds are against him.
I really understood the fear factor that, wow, there's no reversing this. It's either you succeed or you just crash and burn.
In a strange sort of way, the Rocky saga is just a story about America with the backdrop of boxing.
Without a ranked contender, what this fighter's gonna need is a novelty.
Rocky's first opponent was his most memorable, heavyweight champion, Apollo Creed.
Apollo Creed seemed to me to be a compilation of Ali and all the great heavyweights at that time. This character was a showman, was a salesman, was pretty bombastic, very smart, articulate, but at the same time knew how to play the game.
Well, all of you here in this...
He looks like a big flag. Is he talking to me?
He's talking to you.
Is he talking to me?
Let him talk when he can talk.
People were very surprised at Rocky's philosophy on life, that if he can take the beating, the pain that life can dish out and be standing at the end of that fight, he's not another bum from the neighborhood. To succeed or fail one time, just give me a shot. Let me at the bat one time, put me in, coach. If I fail, I get it, okay? But that lack of opportunity is what's so debilitating, so degrading, fatiguing, makes you world weary. And that's what Rocky was all about. I had no prime, I had nothing. I never got a chance.
Nobody's ever gone the distance with Creed. And if I can go that distance, seeing that bell rings and I'm still standing, I'm gonna know for the first time in my life, see, that I weren't just another bum from the neighborhood.
Before Rocky, Sylvester Stallone was an out-of-work actor and sometimes writer, doing odd jobs just to get by.
I grew up, I worked along those docks. I knew it very, very well. I used to drive a forklift down there. I quit school at 16. You're really down there. There's no options. No one's gonna come in and rescue you. It's it. There's no life preservers. You're on your own. I remember Rocky Marciano had a fight with Muhammad Ali, a computer fight. It was fictional. Marciano was well past his prime. Ali was being considered banned from boxing by the military, by the government. So they were both broke. And at the very end, Marciano wins.
Sylvester Stallone figured the only way to get a decent acting part was to write it himself.
When I wrote Rocky, I was at the corner of obscurity and failure. It was going nowhere.
He just so happened to mention his writing to producers Irwin Winkler and Robert Chardoff at a casting meeting.
Bob Chardoff and I had a deal at United Artists.
So he came into the office. He was such a fascinating guy, so interesting, so funny, so bright. As he was leaving the room, with his hand on the knob to the door, he said to me, "You know, Mr. Chardoff?"
Something to the fact, you know, I write a little bit.
We were kind of surprised because he came in as an actor and we didn't think of him much as a writer and didn't know of anything about it.
He goes, "Sure, I'm sure they've heard that. Okay, come back when you've got something." I had nothing.
He sent us a script, I think it was called Paradise Alley, and we liked the writing a lot, but didn't particularly want to make that the story. So he said, "I have this other story. If I write it, would you guys promise you'll read it?"
The first draft was 3.5 days. Now, by no means is this a shooting script. I would say 85% was useless, but I believe in writing just to get through it and worry about it in the rewrite and keep rewriting and rewriting and rewriting until you hone it down.
After many rewrites, Chardoff and Winkler loved the script.
Finally, when they said, this is not bad, take it to the studio. And they go, great, great, great. Who's gonna star in it? They said, well, he wants, no, there's no chance. Yeah, no, we get rid of that guy and we might have a deal. I thought, you know, I'm never gonna get this opportunity again. I've never been this close to a studio. This character is something I understand. It comes from me. I've sort of mastered poverty. I got it down. I kind of like know how to sort of get by.
We had confidence in the script more than him. We just really, really loved the script. So we said, why not? We'll take a chance.
It was one of those moments where I don't even know why I was so stubborn. I really didn't have a leg to stand on. I was so broke. I had to sell my dog. I was so broke.
Can you imagine then putting your bet down on someone by the name of Sylvester Stallone if you never saw him or heard of him? It just was, from the point of view of United Artists, a big gamble.
United Artists finally agreed to let Sly play Rocky, but equally important casting was his opponent.
Apollo Creed was vital to Rocky. Ken Norton comes in, and he had already broken Muhammad Ali's jaw. He was pretty big, too. But I thought, okay, Ken Norton. I'll never forget, because he used to come in and I would see his vein through the shirt. I went, I don't know if this is such a good idea. 3 days before we're ready to film, he goes, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna go in the ABC Superstar competition. I go, you mean like riding bikes still, and rowing and things? He goes, yeah. Softball throw, really? Yeah, 25 grand. I said, oh God, Ken, please, I'm begging. Anyway, he does it. And now we're in trouble. We're sitting around commiserating. It was about 8 at night, if I recall. And in walks Carl Weathers.
I walked in at the end of a Friday, as I remember, in typical Hollywood cattle call. And I was introduced to the producers.
And he comes in, and it's astounding. It really is seismic. For real. He just walks in, and it's the voice, hey. I went, damn, okay, voice, check that box.
That's the way I see it.
See your body? Definitely check that box.
And I was introduced to the writer. The writer was seated, I was standing.
Then we read a scene. He goes, okay, I appreciate reading the scene, but I could do much better if you put me with a real actor.
And the writer, as it turns out, was also the star of the movie, Sylvester Stallone.
You couldn't find a better Apollo Creed in the world. Carl Weathers was born to play that part.
The job for me was, how can I make him an antagonist without making him a villain? How do I find the humanity in this man? That's what my job is, regardless of whether he's supposed to be the good guy or the bad guy. You dislike him because of what he's saying, but you like him because of how smart he is. He's working it. He knows exactly how far to push it.
A lot of people may not like me, and that's okay. But come November, Apollo Creed will provide the ultimate gala spectacle. On Thanksgiving, in front of this man's home crowd, I'm gonna drop him like a bad habit.
Apollo Creed became a part of the landscape.
With a budget less than $1 million, the producers had to save money wherever they could.
This was done in 25 days. It was done with the most primitive equipment possible, except one thing. It was the birth of the Steadicam, which revolutionized the look of a boxing film.
I had a one-of-a-kind machine that would let you run and climb stairs and so on, and do all the things you could never do handheld, and it looked like a dolly shot.
Technologically, what you could do with that relative to a large camera that you've got to put on a dolly or handheld, it's, you know, gonna be sort of shaky shots. It was just a phenomenal tool.
It was amazing. I was so naive, I go, what is this thing? Because I thought it was a coffee maker. It was it's loud, and there's bolts hanging off it and string, and this giant man named Garrett Brown, who invented it. He's like 6'7", and when he could run, he could run as fast sideways as I could run straight ahead.
In a world ruled by dollies, you laid rails outdoors. You either were on a crane and armed out, or you saw the rails. Think of the shot in the Italian market where he's running up the street. I was sitting in a pickup truck taking out the bumps from that vile road with this thing.
When we went up these steps, people weren't even aware of what they were seeing. They just know they're seeing something different. And they're circling around. And there was a majesty coupled with Bill Conti's unbelievable music, which was so noble, Romanesque in a way, for such a character that's from Fishtown.
On the emotional level, I do think that the nature of those shots contributed to people's feelings about the movie.
That became the shot of the movie, period, of my life. That's the image I'll always be remembered for. It was really pretty extraordinary.
Rocky was a startlingly good idea and startlingly new. And Rocky would have been a great film with or without the Steadicam. But I think that I helped it a lot.
The setting also helped keep the budget down.
Every movie seems to be about New York, Chicago. Nobody ever does anything about Philadelphia.
The idea was to film in Philadelphia as long as we could until the unions found out about it. I had to do everything kind of quietly, because what if the Teamsters found out? I was like, no, I don't want to, I don't know nothing. Don't break my legs. I know nothing.
One of the most memorable moments of the film was the training montage.
It wasn't planned as a, okay, let's really well thought out montage. I just kept doing everything. Climbing up fire escapes. I was running through parking lots, shopping malls. You have no idea. Because we were illegal. We were not union sanctioned. So I would jump out of a van and do these things. For example, up and down the steps.
We did scores of them running around chasing Stallone as he worked out in pre-dawn, you know, up Broad Street, across the railroad tracks, past the old ship, the Mosholu.
Run up, steal it, run back down, run past the ship.
When you look at that shot of him running alongside the ship, he is fast. I mean, he put on a burst of speed there. We were looking out the side of a van, and can I say holy shit? That's what the driver said when he saw this. It was good.
Running through the park, everywhere we could steal something, and then we put it all together.
Everyone involved knew the boxing scenes would make or break the movie.
Getting in the ring every day and just trying to learn to box. I mean, really box, you know. I remember Sylvester and I both just really spending a lot of time at it, actually having a lot of fun, but being drenched through the process, you know, because it was work. It was really, really, really hard work.
I realized this is going to be a hard deal if we're going to get in there and really go for it. I spoke to a who shall remain nameless, but he had done the majority of all these major boxing films. He said, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to come out, you're going to throw two, he's going to throw two, you're going to throw one, and he's going to throw two. And I went, that's pretty much what I see all the time in these fights. It's like rock 'em, sock 'em, you know. Wow. I said, why can't we imitate real fights? I'm going to come out and move. You actually see some head movement. I'll keep my hands a little lower so my face is exposed, but I want to see footwork. I want to see the whole thing. I said, I'd like to see Apollo come out of the corner and throw 3 right hands. Bang, bang, bang. He goes, that's ridiculous. No one would get hit with 3 right hands. I go, Rocky would, and Apollo is that good. He goes, I'm not doing it. He goes, no. I quit. If you want to do that. I go, all right. And he quits. Now he was looking at me like, what'd you do? Who's going to do this? Who's going to choreograph this? So the director goes, well, it looks like it's going to be you now. Why don't you go home and write it all out? Literally write it, like a screenplay. That had never been done. So it became almost like sheet music, page after page of combination, round 3, round 4. And then you go, oh, that's working, that's not working. Let's put it on film. And we had a ballet. A violent ballet.
We choreographed the entire fight. You had to really work this thing out because you're not only learning to do this and do this well, but you're doing it for camera and you're doing it to look right.
The president of MGM at the time sent me a letter after he saw the film, and he said, I want to remind you that we still have the right to sell the film directly to television and not give it a theatrical release.
This is a movie that was not going to come out. This is a movie that was threatened to be released at the second B-side of a drive-in movie, and then not at all.
When the movie opened, it was such a long shot. No one knew what to expect.
I was standing in front of the theater where it was playing and reading this review, and it was really devastating. And out of the theater comes Peter Falk, and he said, hey, congratulations. The picture's just great. And I said, Peter, look at this terrible review in the New York Times. And he said, Irwin, don't look at the review. Just go inside and see you. The people are standing and cheering. That's really what it's about.
It was bigger than all of us, what happened as an event.
I don't think anybody could envision that. I certainly couldn't have, you know?
It was not a celebration of, wow, we've got an Oscar winner here. What is this thing? No one's going to want to see this movie. And it just trickled out slowly around the circuit and by word of mouth and played in the theaters for over a year. When Rocky was up for 10 Oscars, no one was more shocked than me.
We never imagined something like that would be the case.
People were shocked.
First of all, we were scared out of our minds. Of course, that's what happens when you know that there are going to be a couple of billion people watching this show.
And the film won 3 Academy Awards.
The studio at this point was very anxious to make another Rocky.
I always thought it would be a sequel if it worked because he didn't win.
Ain't gonna be no rematch.
Don't want one.
Rocky 2 starts out in the hospital. Really, Rocky 1 and Rocky 2 is the same movie. It's just we couldn't put a 4-hour film out. I never had any intentions of directing Rocky 2. The screenplay I wrote was not what director John Avildsen wanted to direct. And he goes, no, I'm out. They said, well, then you direct it. Okay.
He was involved with every aspect of the film. That's why we had no problem with the thought of him directing the second one.
And then I went, what have I done? Because, you know, it's so physical.
That's a sleepless job, you know? That really is, because you're writing, you're directing, and you're acting and then starring in it. That's a pretty big load.
You have to do all the pre-prep, all the scouting, all this, all the production design, and then you have to box. But I tell you, I really loved the experience. I really did. I'm grateful that the doors of opportunity were swung open. It was something I never would have done, and I loved it.
Rocky II was the second highest grossing film of 1979, and Rocky III was inevitable.
Now his life is going to evolve even more. He's a champion. What's going to happen? And that's came Rocky III. And that's the side of opulence and becoming vain and so glorified. When you lose that hunger, when you don't need to go as hard as you used to go, you're going to lose. Because there is a guy out there who is that hungry. They love it, Mick.
Maybe the best way of saying it is hubris, which brings a lot of people down. We see it every day. It's maybe one of those flaws in us all that comes about as a result of certain amount of success and then sort of getting ahead of yourself.
They needed an opponent that was as hungry as Rocky had once been.
And why don't you tell all these nice folks why you've been ducking me? Politics, man. This country wants to keep me down. Keep everybody weak. They don't want a man like me to have the title because I'm not a puppet like that fool up there.
You know, you got a big mouth, you know?
Why don't you come out and close your mouth, boy? Come on. Come on.
Mr. T, you know, had something. He had that charisma, that larger-than-life, that X factor, whatever it is that makes the camera like you and transfers your energy to the audience. I think that's very important.
The most amazing villain of all time, Mr. T. He was twice as powerful, twice as hungry. So, okay, I'm gonna evolve. You're gonna become thinner, faster.
So, Clubber Lang, what's your prediction for the fight? Pain.
Rocky loses to Clubber Lang and also loses his mentor and friend.
That's good. We did it.
We did it. We did it. Mickey's death is the absolute end of Rocky as a fighter. His guilt is so overwhelming. It would probably be the end of him as a man.
Hit it straight. Step into it.
Luckily, Apollo Creed shows up.
Gotta get that look back, Rock. Eye of the tiger, man. Eye of the tiger, come on.
The worst thing that ever happened to you, or that could happen to a fighter, is you became civilized.
A tiger is one mean animal. You throw that tiger in the ring with any other cat, and he will make mincemeat out of him.
Rocky III was another knockout at the box office, so planning began for the next installment.
Rocky IV was kind of a dilemma, because Rocky III was so good in many ways that I thought Rocky at this point was becoming sort of an international ambassador.
Ford was a whole nother animal. That was bombastic, is what that was.
Using the Max Schmeling-Joe Louis fight in the 30s, where Max Schmeling was from Germany, and everyone thought he was one of Hitler's wonder children. Joe Louis represented America, and Joe Louis got smashed. And I said, you know, I'm gonna do that. And this German, now we're gonna make him a Russian, smashes Apollo Creed. Kills him.
There is that moment in every athlete's life where you can't quite do what you used to do. You're just not as fast as you used to be. You're slowing down, dude.
And that now becomes bigger than any sort of sporting event. Now it's revenge, vindication, country against country. The fight itself becomes a fight of morality and ethics. And we're two countries.
Rocky tried to tell you, leave that Russian alone. This dude is a bad man.
I came to America to study chemical engineering at MIT in Boston. I got into acting, and you know, one of the first castings I went to was for some boxing movie. I came up to a table, and there's a girl sitting there with a bunch of papers, and she just didn't even look up. She just said, "How tall are you?" I said, 6'4". She's like, "Too tall, next." And I was like, wait a second. 6 months later, when I was in Europe, somebody called me on the phone, and it was out of breath, some PA from Paramount, like, "Oh, thank God I found you. You know, Sly was gonna kill me." And I met Stallone at Paramount, and he said, "I saw your pictures, you know, you look good." And I told him I was a fighter and all this. And then he showed me all of these binders of, 8x10s of other guys. There's like 5,000 guys up for the role. And I was like, oh shit, I'll never get it. There was about 50 people behind camera. You could kind of hardly see him back there. It was Sly, his bodyguards, and a bunch of guys in suits. And I was there, knowing that, okay, this is it. I did my monologue. I decided to play the guy very kind of cold and collected, not to move too much, just to kind of play the interior like a Soviet officer, because, it has that stance with the high chin and everything. 2 days later, Sly called me in New York. He got the role.
4 was as much fun as you could possibly have as an actor.
I'm down on that platform and I rise up into the light, because it's kind of metaphorical for me of getting introduced to Hollywood, and also I can see my face there when I see myself actually reacting to being in this casino in Vegas, and Stallone, Carl Weathers, James Brown, they're all in there, and I think the look on my face is priceless because it's real, and there's no acting there. It's just a Swedish kid becoming a movie star.
Apollo refuses to let Rocky stop the fight.
Promise me, you're not gonna stop this fight.
And he dies in the ring.
I thought, well, when Apollo goes down, number one, I don't want to catch myself because that gives it away. And then I was doing this little twitching, as I went down. And the doctor really thought I'd gotten taken out. He comes up running to me and, are you okay? Are you all right? Yeah, man. He saw the twitching and he thought I'd been tagged, man. So it worked. It worked.
If he dies, he dies.
Ivan Drago wasn't exactly known for his verbal abilities in that movie, but he could fight.
I trained harder probably for that than I trained for the others because Dolph is so damn much bigger.
I trained with Stallone for 5 months. We trained twice a day, 6 days a week, weights in the morning and boxing in the afternoon.
The training was every day with Dolph. We built a special gym, so we'd be sparring 2-3 hours a day, the choreography, and then another couple hours of bodybuilding.
I was surprised that Stallone, who was 10 years older than me at the time, well, still is, but he was about 35 and I was 25, that he actually was able to do that because, for a 25-year-old fighter, 35 was like, forget it, you're over. In my world, by 30, it's over. So I was impressed by him, I remember.
It was like David and Goliath. And Dolph was so big and so strong and so physical that at times
he would tell me to hit him harder or, more body shots,
There was a scene where he hit me so hard I was in the hospital for 4 days in intensive care. He had hit me in my heart and the pericardial sac started to swell. It's very typical of what happens when you're in a car accident. I was sort of hit by a truck. When the steering wheel hits your chest, that's why people sometimes die a half hour later.
He was a tough guy, but maybe I did hit him too hard, I don't know. Stallone did a great job as a director. The fight scenes are very, very good, even when you look at him today. It's like he was at the top of his game.
Rocky IV was the most successful film of the franchise. And then came Rocky V, and I made a mistake.
He had fought in the ring 4 times. I thought this was a really good idea, fighting in the street.
I didn't direct that one, and I wish I had. Maybe there might have been a little difference. This was an experiment. I thought, let's have a grand street fight. We've seen him in the ring now 4 times. No, it didn't work that way. The original ending is that Rocky dies in Adrian's arms. He's not going out in a suffering manner. He's almost at peace being in his wife's arms, being in Philadelphia. It was very, very sad. And the director wanted to do it badly, John. But the studio was having no part of it, and I'm glad they said that.
Rocky V didn't do as well, and everyone thought the franchise was finished. But 16 years later, Rocky's creator had an idea on how to finish his character right.
No one was excited about making Rocky Balboa. No one. I was excited about it, but no one, truthfully. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I was resistant. I didn't think that there was an audience out there to do it.
Nobody wanted to make it. Couldn't get any interest anywhere. United Artists would not make the picture. they felt it was a bad bet.
It was a far-fetched idea. If I was on the other side of the desk, I'd agree with them. Really? You're pushing 60. The last one didn't work. You haven't had a lot of successes in other films. The demographic is not there anymore.
I gave him all the reasons why it shouldn't be done, and he gave me all the reasons why it should be done. So they were all right. I was dead wrong.
The studio goes, well, we don't see another fight film. Rocky can't win a title. I go, no, he can't. This is a story about grief. This is a story about a man who only knows how to eliminate this pain that he feels for the loss of his wife. When I come here, you don't feel so comfortable, and I certainly don't want to do that.
You know, you throw a big shadow.
It's where the drama lies of these two characters. And of course, you know, having Adrian not around anymore and the heartbreak that Rocky has.
In his training, he realizes, because you're too slow. Your shoulders are all sore. You got arthritis in your neck. Your knees are shot. You can't do anything. But we're going to train you to stand in one spot and deliver blunt force trauma. Anything you hit, you're going to break. That becomes a story point for the audience that Rocky is not about winning, it's about surviving. And again, nothing's going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit.
It's about how hard you can get hit.
And keep moving forward.
How much you can take and keep moving forward.
Because that's how winning is done. Rocky Balboa did extremely well as a movie. It was quite successful. And it overcame extraordinary odds, tremendous skepticism. I remember my wife going, please don't do this movie, please. I have no choice. I have no choice. I got to do it. And I'm glad I did, because here we are with Creed.
We spent 18 years between Rocky V and Rocky Balboa, and we all thought it was finished. That would be the end of it, and going out in style, because Rocky Balboa was very well received.
Remember, I put Rocky to bed. He was sleeping soundly. After 40 years, went, great. Mission accomplished.
Little did I know that there was a young man up in Oakland, California, at the time he was 26, that had an idea for a spinoff of Rocky that would create a whole new audience and a whole new franchise and a whole new way to tell the story.
My inspiration for making this film, really started with my relationship with my dad. He was a big Rocky fan growing up. He kind of passed that on to me and my little brothers. Some of the funnest parts about watching the movies with him was watching how he would, react to the movie and say the characters' lines and get emotional at certain parts. Before we had big games, football, basketball, track, he'll sit me down and maybe watch certain scenes from the movies. I told my agents that I got signed with William Morris and Endeavor about the idea when I first got signed before I made Fruitvale. They were like, hey, what other things are you working on? I told them about this crazy idea.
Even before we shot Fruitvale Station, Ryan's agent got him a meeting with Sly.
I was coming off the street pitching him a story that had this character in it that was his life's work.
I said, man, this guy, he must be in the wrong office. He definitely took a right turn. He should have gone left. I said, this is a crazy idea.
I knew it was crazy, but there's a history there of him walking in weird rooms with crazy ideas. You know what I'm saying, 40 years ago.
About a year passed, maybe a little bit more, and he did Fruitvale Station. So the guy's a filmmaker. He did all that with very little money. Won the Cannes Film Festival, a few other festivals. Maybe I should listen.
Got another call, came back down to LA, and we sat down and talked about it for real.
I know it was a lot for him to kind of not give up a project, but to share this world that he's created, for the past 30, 40 years. Take those characters that he created and kind of entrusted in this kind of next generation of filmmakers.
You have to embrace the journey, which was a very difficult one for me. It really was, because I always felt Rocky had been done. It was complete. I didn't have to go any further. But if you take on this role in Creed, you have to go all the way. And finally, I was convinced to do it.
The realization came that we can find a way to reach another audience for Rocky, and this young man is the way we're going to find it.
He's digging up a new idea, a concept I never even considered, which is Creed, a whole other dynamic, a whole other demographic, a whole other generation.
I heard about a third fight between you and Apollo, behind closed doors.
How do you know all this?
He's my father.
When I told my dad that we were gonna be doing a movie, that we might be doing a movie, that we were in negotiations for it, I mean, he was fired up, man. But the one that he's closest to emotionally is Rocky II, you know. And I think it's just kind of the same way for Sly too. Like when we would talk, and we talk about the fights, we talk about the choreography, and I thought the fight scene in that was just, you know, that's kind of like the carbon cutoff for a lot of fight scenes. Man, I'm buddies with Colin Trevorrow, who did Jurassic World, and he told me that the fight at the end of that, I haven't even told you this yet. The fight at the end of the movie between the two dinosaurs, you kind of model them after the Rocky II fight. You know what I'm saying? Crazy. So like it's kind of like when you think of a movie, you think of a movie fight, an epic movie fight. You know what I mean? That's kind of where you at. You know, and
that's flattering when a dinosaur is copied. I mean, you know, I peaked. Where are you gonna go, right? You can't go any better.
Yeah.
I was amazed when Ryan Coogler, when I said that basically to him, why do you want to do this? And he said he grew up with Rocky.
He's really arguably the best cinematic portrayal of an underdog that's ever really been pulled off.
It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about, you know, just kind of like doing something he said he was gonna do. This is feeling of like, I don't know, inspiration, motivation, and it's still around 40 years later.
They're films about being the underdog in self-belief and endurance and perseverance and following your dreams, and those are all themes that I think everybody can get behind. The iconography of Rocky is inescapable. I mean, what that means to people, what that stirs in us. So it doesn't matter when you were born. I think for whatever reason, that character and that song and that image of him running up those stairs is something that we understand.
He has a statue out. You know, it's a fictional character that's sitting out there in front of the museum that people from all over the world travel to come, you know, take pictures by and, you know, stand in his footsteps. It goes to show, you know, the quality, you know, of work that he did, that he put in, you know, over, 40 years ago, you know, is still relevant today, and it will be, you know, in another 40 years. And to be able to be grandfathered into this legacy is an honor, and it's very kind of him to kind of open up his world to me and Ryan.
You know, Stallion, it's too bad we gotta get old, huh?
And a huge part of that legacy is Rocky's first opponent, and ultimately his best friend, Apollo Creed.
All right. Ding, ding.
Rocky has always faced really, really bad guys as opponents, and it's good against evil, except for Apollo Creed.
He's a showman. He's a salesman as well. You know, he sells his fights, he sells his character, but he is who he is, you know what I'm saying? He's a very hard worker, arguably the best fighter in the world.
When Apollo becomes his best friend and his mentor after Rocky crashes and burns because of just excess and being protected, Apollo comes to the rescue and creates the Eye of the Tiger.
Gotta get that look back, Rock. Eye of the Tiger, man. Eye of the Tiger, come on. Come on, let's go.
So he's the key element.
He whooped Rocky ass and pushed him, trained him, got him to the next level, gave him his heart back, you know, gave him his fight back.
A lot of times when you see African-American athletes in film, they're not often as smart as Apollo was. He was a great businessman, he was a great family man, and he was really somebody who was charismatic and you can get behind him.
Without a ranked contender, what this fighter's gonna need is a novelty.
Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed, he set the bar pretty high, you know, so I just wanted to come somewhere close.
What Ryan came up with, which was kind of fresh, is that he had a son, but it was an illegitimate son, and nobody knew about it.
He had a very shaky upbringing. He never really fit in anywhere. So when he was jumping around these little neighborhoods, he always stood out, you know, as a kid that didn't belong there.
He just doesn't feel like he belongs to anything. Or he has accomplished anything in his own life. So there's a pain. And a lot of fighters, and Rocky had it too, that he would fight, as Rocky would say, to get that stuff out of the basement. You know, he has grief. Well, this kid has grief, a lot of grief. And that's why he's pursuing this.
he rejects what his mother wants him to be and really embraces what he thinks his father would have wanted him to be.
He finally feels the need that he needs to kind of like try to get a control of his path.
He's a young man, because he was illegitimate, who's looking for an identity.
We wanted to make him his own thing. And because that's kind of like Adonis's journey in a way. He wants to get out of his father's shadow. He's running from something. You know, he's got a big, you know, hole in his chest and he's trying to fill it.
It's an anger in him that he feels that he gets out when he pushes himself to that brink, when he goes to that place.
It's about this manifesting of sadness and isolation and not belonging, you know, that kind of thing. Because it's very fearful to go into the same backyard as his father when his father is so great.
Yeah, he wants to connect with his father. He wants to find out who his dad was, and if his dad was as special as everybody say he was.
How good was he?
Apollo, yeah, he's great. He's a perfect fighter. Ain't nobody ever better.
So how'd you beat him?
Time beat him. Time, you know, takes everybody out. It's undefeated.
He thinks Rocky has all the answers to the questions that he has. So what better way to get to know your dad that you never knew than, you know, through his best friend?
You see this guy here staring back at you?
Yeah.
That's your toughest opponent. Every time you get into the ring, that's who you're going against. I believe that in boxing, and I do believe that in life.
Rocky, when we find him in Creed, has lost his family. His son has gone off, moved away. His wife is dead. His best friend is dead. And he's alone.
Rocky is living in the past. Everyone around him has pretty much moved on. And he's accepted that he's somewhat on borrowed time. He is in God's waiting room. And he has no problem with that. Then Adonis comes into his life and it disrupts his plan.
Plus, you know, if you train me, ain't nobody around here knows me. We can fly under the radar. They'll never know.
Yeah. I told you before, I just don't want to do it, kid.
It's really a relationship drama, you know, at its core. You know, even though it's a lot of fighting in the movie, it's a lot of boxing, a lot of action. What it's really about is these people, you know, and how they relate to each other.
These boxers, their family and their friends and their loved ones is, you know, what motivates them, is what pushes them, is, you know, who they want to make it home to. So I think it's very important to show, you know, Adonis, you know, having those same relationships and bonds.
Why are you giving me that look?
What, when were you going to tell me that your uncle's Rocky Balboa?
I'm gonna call you.
All right, I'm not going to hold my breath. The thing that to me has always been so special about the Rocky movies is they're not really films about boxing. I mean, they are, obviously, but they're films about love.
When we sold the original Rocky to the studio, what we told them, it was a love story between Rocky and Adrian. And here we have a love story between Rocky and Creed.
They find each other at 2 points in their lives where things are changing fast, you know?
How you doing?
And that relationship changes quick. You know, Adonis comes to Rocky, you know, thinking he needs Rocky, and Rocky's kind of like, you know, I don't really need any of that. Before it's over with, Rocky needs him just as much, if not more, you know? And I thought that's interesting, and that dynamic happens in life.
Like every punch I ever thrown's been on my own. Nobody showed me how to do this. I'm ready.
What really counts is love. Pure and simple, not money, not this, not victory. It's just, do you still have love in your heart at the end? And that's what really gets us through the darkness.
When he first gets to Philadelphia, and it's a place he's never been before, he meets a girl named Bianca, who's an amazing character played by an amazing actress named Tessa Thompson.
They kind of grow together throughout the film, and yeah, it's a cool love story.
Her relationship with Adonis, sort of much like Rocky's relationship with Adrian in the original films.
She's definitely that person that, you know, makes him look at himself in the mirror and, you know, calls him out on bullshit.
She's not in any way sort of the cliche, you know, sports movie girlfriend or love interest. So the chance to play sort of Adrian 2015 and for it to be a character that's sort of as nuanced and interesting as Bianca is, that also is somebody that's following her own dreams. I just thought that that was, you know, a really special opportunity.
She's gonna do her thing, and Adonis is gonna do his. And hopefully they can support each other along the way, but her world doesn't revolve around him.
One of the toughest parts about playing Adonis was getting into shape.
The commitment to do this kind of film is really beyond just acting, because you have to do the physical part of it, the fighting and the acting as well.
When you see those Rockies, it's just like, wow, okay, these guys are in shape. So that was kind of like the bar that was set, and you got to come correct. You can't come half-ass Rocky or any of his characters, so I put the hard work in.
Through incredible diligence, probably almost a year or more, I came in, I was shocked how perfect his body was for a fighter. It was amazing.
He worked for months just training, and the choreography of the fight is very, very involved because, A, you basically have to miss people and not hit them. Sometimes you train with real boxers, and they can hurt you a lot more than actors can.
You just get the sense of what a craftsman he is. It's just been fun to watch him. I think watching anyone tackle something that's incredibly challenging and something that's new and requires them to stretch.
Michael would be the right choice for Creed if I wasn't making it. He's one of the best actors on the planet, and he's got the world in front of him right now. He can do anything.
There's a kind of royalty. You know that this fella here is just not one of the crowd. If you saw Michael B. Jordan among 50 guys, he'd pop.
And for this role specifically, for all that it needed with the athletic component, as well as the charismatic component, you know what I mean? The idea that you believe this could be Carl Weathers' son. A guy that has to share scenes with Sylvester Stallone as Rocky, as much as he does in this movie, and not get completely, completely blown off the camera, but actually hold his own and bring out the best in Sly. There's nobody else who could have done this, to be honest.
And I got a chance to work with a legend, a living legend, and that's extremely rare. And Sly was always ready to share his experience with us, both on camera and behind the scenes.
Sly is a hell of a backup in many, many ways. Not only is he a wonderful actor, which I think we'll see in this film, but he's a writer. He's a fine director. He's directed some terrific movies beyond the Rockies. And he knows the choreography of the ring because he's done it so many times.
He was this wealth of knowledge that was always there, and he'd done so much that he could always give Mike and myself game.
And he's super collaborative, not precious at all with these characters that he, developed 40 years ago. Very, giving, and he has the insight, to all these characters, what makes them tick, what makes them think. So it was very cool to sit down with him and just develop these characters.
And that's always cool when you step into a thing where it's like someone's world and they say, welcome.
I think I helped out a little bit, but they pretty much did the choreography on their own. I just pointed out what I think would expedite things and where I thought it worked for me.
I was trained as an actual fighter. When we were shooting all the fight sequences, he was definitely there, just kind of helping us with the difference between movie fighting and actual fighting. So just kind of finding those lines and blurring them when we have to and when we can get away with it.
I always felt like we were able to flex our creative muscle and still have him there with sage wisdom and all kinds of guidance. He made a lot of things so much easier for me. Like when we were improv, just turn to him and say, man, what would Rocky say when this happens? And he'll say it like that. One of the conversations I had up top, I say, man, look, man, this is time for you to take all those hats off. Let me run around like a crazy man with all that stuff. You just focus on the acting. And he was happy to do it.
I kind of missed the ring a lot. It's kind of like a pilot, and he was sitting in the back of the plane, and then you hit turbulence. You want to go, hey, do you mind if I take the stick a little bit? And then you look, and you go, no. Sorry, back of the plane, pal. Enjoy the ride.
He's an actor who can do anything. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of funny because he's often played roles where he's super strong and physically, formidable. But he's got all this talent inside. So one of the things I was most excited about was for him to get to show it. You know what I'm saying? And doing something different.
I am to you just an old trainer. That's what brought us together, We're not a real family. You hope you can get down to where you're so past vanity, so past what your preconceived notion of who you are. You're that character. You're just going with it. You're going with the words, you're going with the emotions, and you have really not that much self-awareness. You're still caught in the shadow. You gotta move, Donnie.
He's the real deal, and we definitely pushed each other, and we connected on a level that I never thought we would. Sly's advice sometimes could be a little painful.
We doing this shot with Mike. Mike gets cracked by Tony Bellew. He a real fighter, you know what I'm saying? You know, big, tall cat. I mean, him and Mike had a great relationship, and they doing all this choreography, and they don't want, you know, Tony don't want to hit him.
Because somebody came up with a brilliant idea.
Mike a real, you know, Mike actor. Mike don't want to hit Tone because Tone got a fight coming up. So they had this mutual respect. But we doing this shot with this Phantom camera. Mike gets hit and he drops. And I pull Sly to the side. I say, Sly, it's not right, man. I don't know what it is. So he comes over.
I'm trying to find it.
He comes over. He takes one look at the footage, and he looks at me dead square in my face, and he says, "He gotta take the punch."
You gotta take the punch.
And I say, I got it.
And I say, Sly, you can tell him that. I can't tell him that. You know what I mean? I can't, as a director.
You can't be in a Rocky movie unless you take a punch.
Shit-eating grin on his
I
face.
got
He was so
whacked.
happy.
Everybody got Dolph got hit. I said, how can you live with yourself?
Here you go.
Mike is gonna be taking a punch in the face.
I don't know if you can get that.
And I'm happy about that because this is your initiation in the world of Rocky. So
he said Mike's gonna be taking a punch, and this is his initiation into the world of Rocky.
My favorite movie is Dead Man Walking. And I just happen to have the star of the sequel, Dead Man Walking, twice.
Look, man, I can't talk. I got blood in my mouth.
Dead Man punching.
And then the punch
Oh yeah. Don't hit him too hard, just enough to knock him out.
Action.
Yeah, he said it was like a 20%. Yeah, all right. That was a solid 40. That was a solid 40, bro. I felt like I was in a car accident for 3 days. It was, like, my neck was so sore after that. Well, the first time, the punch, we didn't even get it because his hand was in the way, so I had to do it twice.
That's the real one.
Yeah,
That's the one that's in the movie.
Yeah.
I said, don't hit him too hard, but knock him out a little bit. Just a little. Because I tell you, I know what it's like to get buzzed. It doesn't take much, especially when you're standing there. And it's a guy who makes a living punching people in the face. It's not like a bookkeeper or a donut maker or a dog walker. This is a guy who gets up in the morning and smashes things. And he's been doing it for 17 years. So what I knew when Tony moved his hip like that, I went, good night, that's it. So
And it wasn't even the first hit, because the first hit did it, but then it was like hitting the canvas.
Hitting the ground.
Hitting the ground.
Because he a method actor, right? He hits the ground face first. Boom. And it bounces, and it slides. And it slides laughing.
I go, oh my God, Mike slid about 10 feet.
Yeah. Something like that.
But it's in the movie. And Tone after he hit him, he was all sad. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I can't believe y'all making me do this.
I'm telling you, I know what it's like. Dolph knows what it's like. So now he's been initiated.
I'm in the club now.
He's in the club.
That's what we was trying to do, just catch those moments, magic, those little moments. And, you know, hopefully we caught enough of them to make a solid film.
I think audiences will embrace Creed for all the reasons why they embraced the previous Rocky movies.
I see it as a continuation in a very unexpected fashion where you're following another man's journey and Rocky's story is told.
It's a story about the strength of the human spirit, about love, about following your dreams. I think all of those things are universal.
We're obviously going to reach a new, younger audience with this film, and they're going to be fans for the older films as well.
You have this kind of blending of generations. You know, you have these old school, diehard Rocky fans that grew up on them 40 years ago. Hopefully I'm bringing something new to the table with my generation as well and be able to kind of better understand each other a little bit.
What I'm most excited about is letting folks, young people watching the film who've never seen a Rocky movie before, young folks going into the theater, seeing the film, meeting this character for the first time and falling in love with him.
Here we are with the millennials, another generation, 2 generations from when we started it, and it's relevant. So that's pretty extraordinary. So it's a miracle. I want you to make it happen. I want you to make it happen. You do it? Let's do it. All right.
Legacy is what you leave behind, right? The people who you touch that you left behind, and what are the things about you that you stood for that affect the world after you leave it.
Not because I was good, not because I was great. I worked hard.
The film is definitely about that.
It means a lot for my kids that they'll remember something as opposed to just being around or acting in movies. You were part of a creation that was bigger than the man himself, and that everyone was synonymous. That I love.
If we look back 10, 12, 40 years from now, and look back at, 2 legacies, I mean, I can go to sleep at night.
You got this.